So welcome everybody, to those of you that are online and also those of you in the audience here. And I'm Judy McLennan and I'm one of the co-conveners of the Gold Coast Renew branch. I'll begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting tonight, the Kumba families of the Yungabear language region. I pay my respects to the elders past and present and recognise the continuing connections to the land, water and extended communities throughout Southeast Queensland. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders here tonight. When we started planning a few months ago for this, who knew this would be a great topic to have, so timely. And so tonight, Adam's going to do a presentation about storage, batteries and installations, and then we'll have a good Q&A. But let me first tell you about Adam. Adam is Adam Hollis. He's been on the Gold Coast for the past 25 years. And tonight he's coming to this event and speaking from experience, having personally installed and supervised over 1,000 solar and battery installation systems throughout Australia. He's the Sales and Technical Director of Redex Technologies Australia. Over to you, Adam, and I'll get you just to switch on and unmute yourself and we're ready to go.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Like Judy said, a few months ago we discussed about battery storage, and I was like, a couple of months ago, no one was interested in battery storage, and in the last few weeks, we've really seen a very sharp spike in interest in battery storage. So I had to change the way I was thinking and the way I was presenting tonight, because the market has shifted. So Redex, we're a manufacturing company. We're an all-in-one company, vertically in line. So we do all the hardware, the software, the manufacturing. It's all our R&D. It's all our products. So that's exciting. There's not many companies on the market that actually do the whole process. That's just all coming out of our Gold Coast facility. We don't do the manufacturing locally yet, but all the technology is there. We're working on solar. We've got wind turbines that connect to the batteries. We've got generators that plug in for off-grid mode. So many different functions, and not here to talk about Redex, but will be an up-and-coming product on the market. So keep a lookout for it. So a little bit about me. Can't really see. Done a lot of Teslas, a lot of Fronius, a lot of SunGrows in my installation. Teslas, SunGrow and Fronius are one of the leading brands on the market. So we tend to stick to the good brands and not so much the other brands. Less issues like that. So I've done, I can't actually count how many jobs I've done. So I said Judy to 1,000 and I thought, oh, maybe it's not quite 1,000, but let's go in between that 600 and 1,000. And it's taken me all the way from Mount Isa all the way down to Sydney and all the regional towns in between. So I've seen firsthand the good, the bad and the ugly. And it's not good, some of those systems. Some are okay and some you can tell people know what they're doing. So tonight I had a different plan, and I thought, what can I offer you and what can I share with you that's maybe different? So if you come for an academia presentation, that's in the next hall. But if you're here to learn just some tricks and some things I've learned on the job, that's what I want to share with you as the end user potentially tonight. Just thought, share some facts with you. At this stage, there's roughly 3 million installations across Australia, I think over the last 15 years or so. So that equates to 1 in 5 homes having solar. And if you're like me, when I go on a date with my wife or with the family, I'm always looking on the roof. And my wife or my kids are like, what are you doing? Oh, solar. So it's a really, I'm really excited, and I see it all the time now. And the first thing I notice when I drive somewhere is the solar. So it is becoming very popular on residential and commercial jobs. So that's really good work. 1 in 5 in 15 years. Hopefully the next 15 years it could be 3 out of 5. So there's a lot of work that we still need to do to get there. But here's a question for you. How many households have a battery?
Not many.
So let's go total number in Australia. How many do you think we have installed?
100,000.
10,000.
All right, so that's the total. How many do you think we installed last year?
8,000.
90%.
All right, this may or may not shock you. Can't see the last graph, but it's 22. But last year was 12,772 batteries. That's it, give or take. So out of the 3 million homes that have got solar, we've got 2.4 million houses still need a solar system, a battery system. So we've got a long way to go. So that kind of gives us a real snapshot of where we are and where we need to get to help solve some of the problems in the market. Did you find that interesting?
Yeah.
Did you? I actually didn't know that. I had to search it and I thought, wow, that's yeah, very low. And the last 3 weeks, have you heard that there's an energy crisis?
Oh, yeah.
Have you noticed TV, radio, all the wannabe influencers on social media? It's all about energy, and it's all about, oh, what's going to happen? And so this is the buzzword at the moment, and the market has really shifted now to address the issues in the industry. So there's many reasons we can point the finger, blame policy, we can blame government or the new government, we can blame someone overseas, Trump or Putin or whoever you want to blame. But the fact is, energy prices have gone up 141% in the last year. So if energy prices keep going up, at the end of the day, that's a cost to me and you as an end user. It's a cost for, I've got to now pay more money in my budget to try and cover that cost. So what's the answer? What can we do? It's probably not, unless we can change policy and change the way that's happening, it's probably not a lot we as consumers can do. But for me, and if I'm looking at it just as a person, the only thing that has been identified as a way to help save me money is a battery. And there's a few reasons why that is. So everybody knows that during the daytime we have lots of solar going into the grid, but it doesn't go anywhere if it's not used. So we're just losing all that sunshine, all that energy. And then come 6 o'clock at night, we all come home from work, we turn on our heaters, turn on our ovens, and we're using the grid. And so there's a bit of a stability, like a grid stability, or the demand on the peak then just goes through the roof. And that's where the prices come into it. So if we were smarter, we would save that energy during the day into some sort of storage, i.e. a battery. And then when we come home at night, we've got all that energy that we can use to offset our costs. So that's the best way for us as consumers to save money and to get rid of that rising cost. But also for the network, what it does is it helps stabilizes the network. Energy retailers can help by saving all that energy. They can save costs in as a retail price to us as well. So short term, we're going to get a price increase. But hopefully with battery storage, it will curve back the other way. So that's the goal. At Redex and across the industry, I think it's, oh, you can't see it, 400% increase in battery sales in the last 4 to 6 weeks. That's all brands. So if you go to the local wholesaler now, try and buy a battery. So it's very popular. Many customers are trying to get in early, beat the price rise. And so it's good for us in the industry that it's finally happening and people are jumping on board and supporting the movement. So we got a stocked warehouse ready to go again. And we're like, oh, I'm gonna keep bringing more in. So tonight, what I wanted to focus now on is, instead of boring you with all the information that's out there, is what are the 15 questions that if I went to your house, you're going to tell me, oh, what's this, what's this, what's this? Every day I get the same questions. And I thought, well, that's probably the best information I can give back to the community, because one of these questions I'm sure you may have yourself. And this is from my point of view. So let's just go through some of these questions. First one is lithium or lead acid, which one's best? Should I get lithium or a lead acid system? Now, lead acid, it's been around for 100 years, so it's been pretty reliable and around for a long time. But in, I guess, the last 10 years, the lithium battery has really taken off as the winner for choice of battery. There are a lot more efficiencies in there. It's a lot smaller. It is a little bit more expensive, but what you get out of it overall gives you a better outcome. And the other one is, if you think of a tank, you can push all that water out of the tank to real low, where with lead acid, you've got to keep the tank half full to keep it for a long period of time. So there's a lot of pros and cons. But as we now know that battery storage is the thing, the governments and universities, a lot more money now is being thrown in this. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. We see it every day. We're talking to universities, talking to investors who are all trying to throw money at the next big thing. So what does that do for us as consumers? That gives us options. In the next 2 to 3 years, we'll be seeing other batteries that we've never heard of before. And you're like, what? Where did this come from? So it's really interesting that us as consumers will get a better deal, or we'll get a system that can last longer, or it could be a lot cheaper from our back pocket. So you'll see so many different options. We're talking about hydrogen batteries, graphene batteries, like salt water batteries. There's a whole heap of other ones that are coming out. Every day you go onto LinkedIn or social media and there's a new technology that's been researched. So I would stick for the short term, lithium's the way to go. Something happened. It's not cooking. So the next slide is DC or AC coupled systems. And you know, everyone heard the system or the term? I'll just, the one on the left there, that's the Redex battery, AC coupled. If you already got a solar system that you installed 5-10 years ago, you don't need to buy another inverter. You can just add a battery on the AC connection. Same as what the Tesla is. Tesla is an AC connected battery. And then you've also got, on the other side, you've got the DC type systems, which there's a Soltaro and a Sungrow. And what that is, you need another hybrid inverter to make everything work. There's a lot of pros and cons for both types of systems. And I guess AC coupled, you could argue it's cheaper to buy an AC coupled battery. With the DC coupled, it's a little bit more expensive. But the thing I like about DC coupled is you can get a really nice all-in-one system. So you got the solar inverter and the battery all in one, and it's generally built by the same company. So the issues on the market from an installer point of view, or for two vendors to talk to each other, which is a big problem, you eliminate that problem. Because the battery vendor will blame the inverter vendor, and the inverter vendor will blame the battery. And you as the end user will be like, but my system's still not working. So an all-in-one system is usually, which is something like that middle one, or an AC coupled one is good, especially the one on the left, the one that says Redex. I hear this so many times, batteries cost too much. So what's the reason of getting a battery? And as I wrote this, it just came down. I thought, wow, this is biblical. But the number one reason I want a battery, forget any other reason, my reason is number one. I want to make sure that my family can watch Netflix when there's a blackout. So get your priorities right. But also, my theory is, you know, if you don't protect yourself or look after yourself, then you're a result of your effort, right? So if you look after yourself, then you reap the benefit of that. So as the energy prices continue and the stresses on the network continue, we may see more and more short blackouts coming online. So having that blackout protection is a good investment. Then also we got the environment, economics. Economics is looking really good now because the price of energy is going through the roof.
Just stay, the audio is a bit unclear, so just stay making sure.
I like number 4. So many people now saying up the retailer. And I'm like, why? You know, why are people starting to think this way? But I guess with the way things are happening, big corporations are just taking money off us, right? So there's a bit of that sort of reason now happening. Tech nerd, they're popping out of the woodworks now, and they just want it because Elon Musk said to buy one, right? So you've got to have what he says, let's do it. So if that could be a reason, want the latest and the greatest. And number 6 is money doesn't make any money in the bank now, right? So a lot of older people now are saying, well, what can I do with my money that I can at least give to my family or leave it for my family? And so investing in a solar or battery system makes sense for them. So there's some good reasons I came up with of why even if the battery price was a little bit high, there's some good reasons to have it. How many times did we lose power? Was it this year on the Gold Coast? If you're up in Ormo, Kingsholm, we lost 3 in a row. So I ran down to Redex and I grabbed all the batteries and I hooked them up. And so I was all good. And it was 18 hours we had no power. What can I expect to pay for a battery? That's an open question because many sales companies will have different ways to get there. But we feel as a reseller, anyone should be expecting to pay for a 5 kilowatt system anywhere between 7,000 and 9,000, and then 15 kilowatt hour system anywhere between 15 and 18,000. And that's just a guide. It could be a little bit cheaper and it could be a little bit more depending on your house. We turn up to a few houses and got to redo the switchboard, or they want it on the other side of the house, and the only way to get cable is rip the whole roof off. And so yeah, different houses will have different costs. I think we've answered this one, but where do you think electricity prices are going short term and then long term? Well, it's the same as gas, petrol prices. I don't see them coming down. So I don't have the answer, but I would just suggest it probably would. And that's just, well, you can't quite see it, but it's up at the top of the graph now. So go back into 2020 and it's nice and stable, and then straight up. So if it goes up, it usually doesn't go down. But with storage and enough policy and enough political foresight, we may be able to reverse that. But if it is government though, so we don't know what the outcome will be. What is a VPP, right? So that's a term that's been thrown around there. You get a lot of quotes now. People will say, oh, we've got a VPP, join a VPP. Gets a bit confusing. So a VPP stands for virtual power plant. And if I can explain it very simply, it's a retail energy provider will allow you to join the network of a group of batteries and consumers, where they pull all your batteries together. That's one big group of users. And what the energy retailer would do is utilize your energy for their better good, and they'll subsidize, or they'll give you credit, or they'll give you a percentage of the earnings that they make on it. So it's one way to make money, but with a virtual power plant, there's two sides of the fence, and it just depends what side of the fence you might sit on. There's some, if it sounds too good to be true, sometimes it could be. But my advice for any virtual power plant would be whoever owns the asset usually gets the best outcome on it. So if a virtual power plant says, oh, we're going to give you all this money, well, why are they giving you money? So they must be making money off it too, right? So it's a growing industry. There is a lot of positives. There's a lot of great opportunities to help reduce your power bill. A virtual power plant we just got notified of this week is they will use your Tesla Powerwall 60 times a year to dispatch into the market, but they'll pay you for that. So you do get paid some money, but they want your power. The other thing, one more negative, if there's a negative to pick on, is you might be locked into a 5-year term or a 10-year term. So for the first 2 years, you might be happy, and then after that, it could get a bit ugly. So you'd have to just do a bit of research to see if that's something you want to do. Should I wait for batteries to drop in price? What do you think is going to happen? Oh, demand, yeah. So what's going to happen is, we've just seen it now. Germany just signed the deal. All homes must have a battery. Poland, the same. The European countries are mandating it. So all the manufacturers are going, goodbye, Australia. Let's go to Germany or some other country. So the problem we will have is, yeah, demand and having the stock. So prices will probably continue to increase. But once we can level out the supply, the prices should be competitive again. So what does that mean for you? The longer you wait, I think the more you might pay in the long run. Because the other thing you might want to look into and think about is every day or every year you don't do something, you're still paying that power bill. So that money is just, you're giving that away anyway, right? So you could use that money to pay for the battery now. And crystal ball though, it should be more expensive, but maybe in 3 to 5 years that it may come down. Just give you some inside information from a Redex point of view. Our sell price since January has gone up 40%. And that's just from the manufacturing point of view. So we just have to pass that on as well. Another point is 100,000 units is considered too small for those big companies like CATL, Panasonic. They won't touch you unless you have 100,000 units. So that's, for the Australian market, that's it's a big order. Rebates. At the moment, Queensland have no rebates. South Australia had a rebate, but they're getting rid of that one. I believe New South Wales had a rebate, but I think they've just changed it. It's hard to keep up with it now. There's a lot of things happening. But I believe there will be a rebate coming. We just don't know when. But without a rebate, we're not going to push forward with batteries. So at the moment, Queensland unluckily have no other incentive to get a rebate. But if you've got an old solar system, 10 years and old, sometimes it might be more beneficial to do a full solar and battery all-in-one system, because you get more rebate on your solar panels as well. So you may be able to work a better deal for you as an end user. But that's only if your solar system, I guess, is, had its use by date. Because the first thing that will happen when you put a battery in, you'll look at your nice software monitoring system and go, oh, I'm only making 500 watts. Because you haven't connected to a system that's 10 years old because you didn't know how to do it. And so that's the problem we face in the industry. Biggest con in the industry. Who's been told they've got a battery ready inverter on their house? Yeah. Is it one of those?
No, it's a solar heart.
Solar heart, yeah. So it's not a hybrid. So the con is everyone's being told, yeah, battery ready. So I hear it all the time. But it's Mr. Nice Salesman's come into your home and said, yeah, battery ready. And we turn up doing a battery and they're like, oh, I said, that's not battery ready. So there's a bit of an awkward, the sales companies and the other guys going, hey, what's going on here? So it's a bit of baloney in the industry. So this is just a string inverter. All it does is turn your solar on, turn it off, that's it. So what you can do though, you can put a Redex battery next to it, and you can use the existing solar inverter and a battery, and your solar will charge the battery through AC connection. So it's separated, two different devices, but it does have it has no physical connection as a battery connection. Yeah, that's good. All right, so probably not a good spot to have that. So this graph, this is how we want to use it as an end user, how to save money. See the green graph, that's your solar beam generation. And you can see directly below it in blue, that's the battery charging. So you're using your power to charge your battery. Then what happens is, once it's fully charged, you'll see that then there's an excess solar going to the grid. And then right in this corner here, you can see at night time, 7 o'clock at night time, the battery is being discharged and following your power consumption. So at night time, you're not using the grid as, and that's how you save money. But in the morning, if you see at morning at 7:50, he has a massive spike because everyone's cooking breakfast and getting up for work. So this customer doesn't have a big enough battery to just get him through to the morning. So he only bought a 5 kilowatt hour battery, but he may have needed a 10 kilowatt hour battery to get him through the night. So the most common size that I would recommend for the Australian consumer should be around about a 10 kilowatt hour system. That's an average mum and dad, 2 kids sort of home. That's a good size. If you go a little bit too small, that's what you may see, and you'll still get a little power bill and you're like, hey, what's going on here? So sometimes it might be a bit better to go a bit bigger. I'll just skip then. So just where can you install it? There's only 2 places you can install a battery: in your garage or outside on the brick wall or somewhere outside. No other place you can install it. We have people saying, oh, can you put it here, put it there? I'm like, no. So then they get a bit not too happy with us. But the rules are in a garage or on a brick wall. And just to plug what we're doing, there's our all-in-one system. It's 3 MPPTs, generator ready. So you just plug your generator straight into it. 7,000 watt inverter. It does 10,000 max. And the great thing with that is you only got wind connection as standard. So you can run a 1,000 watt wind turbine on it. I've got one of those connected in my house, and it takes care of my nighttime load. So it's really exciting. I just don't know how wind's going to work in like downtown suburbia. Bit of a challenge. Maybe the council might get us. And the other great thing is EV ready. So we're designing our EV charger to already be inside our inverters. So you don't need another box on the wall. So we're thinking ahead, all Australian design, Australian patents, all done here on the Gold Coast. So what I'll do is I'll leave this up for you. Got any questions, or you want to go onto our website, you want to ask any more questions outside of this event, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you very much. So batteries in general have a lifespan of 10 years, usually about 4,000 to 6,000 cycles. That's the general rule.
What happens to them after they finish their working life?
Yeah, so there is a bit of new policy coming out that so what you have to do after the 10-year period, if you want to, what will happen is you need to recycle those batteries. There's new laws coming in that batteries need to be recycled. And there's a Gold Coast business that's actually recycles lithium into fertilizer. So there is ways now to recycle batteries, which is really good.
Is anyone in Australia manufacturing batteries? I'm going to take a question now from William. So, great question here from Camille. And Adam, if you can repeat it,
Camille asks, hey Adam, can you please explain how the ability of electric car batteries will effectively power the household?
So how does electric car battery affect the household? Great question. This space is actually going to be the next big thing in energy storage. That's why our battery have the EV charger already built in. Because if you're already coming home from work with 100 kilowatt hours worth of storage, come home, plug it in, use your car to charge or to run your household peak, because you only drive 10 minutes down the road to your factory or to your work. So you don't need to charge your car up again every single night. But AI and smart technology, what we're going to do is we will know when you're home for periods of time and we'll charge your battery again on the car. So there's going to be a lot of energy and a lot of space put into this to make, so for an end user, a customer, you should have zero bill if everything works together. And EV cars are a great way to help your cycle. The challenge is you've got to charge your car somewhere. That'll be the challenge.
Sorry, we should have explained that we're taking one question from the audience here and then one question from the online audience. So, Kim, sorry, your question?
Are any Australian companies manufacturing batteries that you would use at present?
So
Yeah.
So Australian manufacturing, is there any companies here? The short answer is no. We don't have the capability, or we don't have enough. There's no money in it for an Australian company to invest that money to make it here. It's too cheap to just get it from overseas. I think there will be a time and a place that we will do that, but 5 years, maybe not. There is companies that will assemble here. So they get the cells from overseas and they will put it in a box here, but it's really assembly here, not manufacturing. Yeah.
Peter's asked a question. Most people are looking at a break-even point with the idea that battery might have paid for itself before or at the end of the time of the warranty runs out. So far, unlike solar panels, the battery cost does not provide that security. Do you foresee a time when the cost of purchase and installation will be low enough to cover the cost of the system? How far off? Have you got a crystal ball?
Yeah, big question.
Okay.
So the question is, the payback period on a battery can be the same price or the same time and the same cost as the warranty period of a battery. Yes, that could be true. Go back 6 months ago, I was quoting jobs. It was a 12-year payback period, but you only have a 10-year warranty. So for some customers, that's true. You're not going to get your return on your investment. But with prices increasing, that payback period now has gone down to 6 years. So it just depends which way you want to look at it. But I can't see, without rebate and without any other subsidies, that we can get it down to the same ROI as solar. Solar is probably a 3-year return on investment. Batteries, anywhere between 6 and 10 years.
The first bit was the difference between two lithium types, phosphate and iron phosphate. There's two different types. What is the difference, and what is the best for your household to have? And the second one was just answering that.
So the question is, what's the difference between, there's a lot of different lithium blends out there on the market, lithium phosphate, lithium ion. To be honest, it's just a balance between lithium and some other chemical. What the best and the worst is, I couldn't tell you exactly what the answer is. You'll have one scientist probably saying this and one scientist probably saying that. So to be honest, I couldn't give you a definitive answer, but a lot of batteries on the market are lithium phosphate. Yeah, there is a lot more coming with a blend of nickel in it, and yeah, there's other blends starting to come through with technologies. And cobalt's another one that they blend in. But there is a shortage of minerals now too. So sometimes what you want, you may not be able to get. So we're in a few challenging times, but lithium blend is the go-to battery still on the market. I wouldn't be worried about the blend at this stage. They still have the same characteristics in my view.
So, question for me.
Mute myself. What battery advice can you give to people planning to go entirely off grid? We only have that option on our new property.
So,
if you repeat that again.
So what options do you have if you go off grid? You have actually a few options. Off grid is becoming more and more popular now. It's actually a real booming business. There is a lot of systems on the market there. A lot of people are still using lead acid for off grid, just because they do have the space in off grid and they're not worried about it, and it's a lot cheaper to buy. But a lot of people now are going with those all-in-one systems and having a generator as a pure backup scenario. So if you're in the middle of nowhere, you need a backup. So they'll just recharge a smaller battery if they need to off a generator. So there's electronics out there, Froniuses can handle it, but the battery cell is just modular systems that are lithium. And there's a whole heap of different battery cells you can do for off grid, but the challenge is having the inverter that can do what it needs to do. That's the limitation for off grid.
Any more questions here? Yes, Karen.
Yeah, just in relation to that question and what you mentioned earlier about the Redex battery being compatible with an existing older system. What would be the difference if you were up to 10 years and were going to replace the old system? How would you compare your Redex with, say, a Tesla system? What are the advantages?
So what is the difference between a Redex system and a Tesla system? And if the system was over 10 years old, what would we do? So the problem with it, if the system is 10 years old, your efficiency is very poor. The panels are probably not producing and the inverter's not producing that well either. So the problem you're going to have is, what do you do? Do I do a whole new system, or do I just go with a battery? The problem is, if you just go with a battery, it doesn't matter if it's a Redex or a Tesla, you'll have the problem. So you're going to have to address that problem first. You're going to have to fix that problem.
Now, assuming that we're getting a full new system, why would we choose Redex as opposed to Tesla?
So at the moment, we've got two products. We've got the AC coupled and we've got an all-in-one system. So our AC coupled is only a 5 kilowatt hour. So if you're looking for, we're not apples for apples in terms of product, because Tesla's 14 kilowatt hours, but then you're paying 3 times the price too. So it just depends whether you only need 5 kilowatt hours or you need 14 kilowatt hours. That's the only difference. Yeah.
All right. So I've got another question here tonight, and
Can the AC battery be connected to any make of inverter?
Yes. So AC
Oh,
coupled.
start that. Could you repeat that again?
Can any AC coupled battery be connected to an existing PV inverter? The basic answer is yes, it can, because it's connected to your switchboard through AC connection, where your solar inverter is already connected to your switchboard through AC connection. So it feeds back to the common point and then it goes back the other way. So in electrical sense, there is no connection there other than AC connection. So it would work on any system. The challenge you will have is if you want the inverter to stay on, so in an off-grid situation, if you've lost AC connection, how do you turn that solar inverter back on? And some inverters may or may not be able to turn back on because of the age or the communication. You can't talk to it. So that could be a challenge.
Yes. Is there any difference if you have 3 phase power now? Does that have any impact on what battery you can get?
Yes. So 3-phase, does it have an effect on what sort of battery you can? It does. You have 1 or 2 options for 3-phase and you've got 50 options for single phase. So you're stuck with 1 or 2 options.
What are the 1 or 2 options for 3 phase?
So SunGrow do have a 3-phase option, and I believe GrowWatt have a 3-phase option. Or you can do 3 single-phase inverters, but then you've got to buy 3 inverters. So you're paying 3 times the price. So not cost effective, but doable. So I wouldn't recommend having 3 individual systems. You'll open yourselves up to issues. So if you have 3-phase, but the advantage with 3-phase though, especially in off-grid, is you can do 3 smaller systems and just have 3 phases running through. So the cost can be a lot cheaper. So in an off-grid situation, I prefer to do a 3-phase installation for off-grid, and you just wire the house for 3 phases. It actually works really well. But for domestic house, most houses are only single phase, majority.
First, when will Australia have the ability to use my Nissan Leaf EV battery for my home?
Well, when will Australia be able to use my Nissan Leaf battery for my home? Well, the technology exists. The challenge is, what happens is there's a bit of red tape in the middle still. I think we can get rid of some red tape, but the technology is there, and within, I'd say 12 months or less, maybe a little bit more, you should be able to have bi-directional charging from your car to your house without any issues. But there's some still red tape we've got to get through. Yeah. People are going to lose money is the short answer, right? So it just depends which side of the fence is losing money.
So is that regulation?
Regulation. Energex or Ergon won't want you to. And so I'll give you some Redex that's why we're putting it inside our inverter. Because if your inverter is already connected and approved by the network, we can then tap into the battery and we bypass that red tape.
Can I ask you one that's just going to bounce off that one? So I'm just going to answer one from here also. Can an X-vehicle battery be used for domestic installation? X-vehicle battery. And if you can repeat that again.
Can an X-vehicle battery be used in a domestic installation? In theory, yes, but I don't know how it would be done yet. So it would be a challenge, and it's something that you'd probably spend 2, 3, 4 times the amount of money to try and make it work. So if it was a hobby, you might be able to make it work, but I can't see how that would be viable. Yes.
This gentleman's, so this is one, we want to get another PV,
Yeah.
and
for the cost of a battery to install in my house, if the EV ready to charge it and use the power of the EV, I'm starting to think I'm better off putting that money that I was going to put in the battery into an EV and wait, because the habits of when we charge and when we use the power, the car will be there, obviously. So if it's only 12 months away, why would you do EV until, you know, rather than go to the battery?
So question is, if I can use my car battery, why would I put a battery on my home, in short? Yeah. So two things. If your car's not home, what happens if you have a blackout?
Well, I won't be home, so I won't care.
But there's one issue. And two, so you may not have to put a massive system on your house, but just have a smaller system. But you still need the smarts though to then connect to the car. Eventually, is it 12 months? Is it 18 months? Is it 2 years? That's sort of the window.
Yeah.
It'll be standard probably moving forward. But yeah, a lot can happen in 2 years. But everyone is chasing that next big thing, which is using the car battery to offset your power bills. The other one too is some manufacturers are trying not to let you take the power out of the car because of warranty issues. So companies like, I believe, maybe Tesla, maybe others will say you can only do it if you have a Tesla battery or a Tesla inverter. So they kind of want to monopolize that theory. I just don't know how it's going to play exactly here, but
well, it's an interesting battle because the car prices are coming down and batteries kind of stay.
But if you're the car manufacturer and you're draining your car to feed your house, then you go, hey, my battery's not working. Well, what did you do it for, right? Yeah. So yeah, that's the challenge we'll have. But in theory, I would love to bring my car home and have 100 kilowatts connected to my house.
Right.
So this is possibly, so Peter's asking, have been contemplating joining the Tesla VPP in New South Wales. Looks interesting, but I cannot work out what's in it for Tesla, particularly providing FCAS services. Any clues would be appreciated.
So thought about joining the Tesla VPP program. That's really only offered down in South Australia and maybe New South Wales. I don't really know the full answer for that, but it all becomes, if you've got storage and there's energy sitting there, if they can take your energy at a smaller cost, then it benefits Tesla. So that's, I don't know the exact answer though for you as the end user.
Sorry, that one, down in the back. Are you going to get a Redex VPP? Is that one?
Are we going to have a Redex VPP? It could be something down the track. What we're basically, our goal and what we're driving to do is we want to support VPP partners. So our software, our hardware is ready for VPP players just to come onto our platform. Because what we've done in the last 2 years is we've embedded a lot of that software directly into the inverter. So we eliminate a lot of the hardware costs and some of the engineering costs and other things associated to running the VPP platform. So if we can get our system smarter, why does the other company need to spend a lot of time and effort developing a software when we've done all the hard work for them? So we just support the sales process.
Okay, I'm going to have one more question for you.
Yep. Good questions.
All right, which one? Oh my goodness. This one. How do you work out whether your inverter is battery ready? if you can repeat that.
How do you work out if your inverter is battery ready? 99% of inverters are not inverter ready. The only way you could check it is go underneath, have a look, and there's battery terminal positions underneath it. If it doesn't have battery terminals on it, it's not battery ready. It's not a hybrid inverter. That's the only way I know the brand, so I know straight away if it's ready, but for a consumer that doesn't know, that's the only way you probably could check it out.
And can we slip in one more?
Sure.
And because you can ask questions afterwards, is there a different type of installation between a city or in the country?
Is there a difference in installation methods from a country or a city? The short answer is no. Same standards, same rules, same type of installation. The only difference is whether or not you have a shed in the bush or you have a house, bricks, veneer, whatever it is here in the city. So it only changes the way you install it in terms of mounting on a brickwork or trying to mount it on the side of the shed. That's the only difference.
So you can't go off grid in the city, can you?
It's very hard to go off grid. You would have to be a bit ballsy, and Energex.
Legally, yes.
Well, Energex would go. You've got to prove to them that you could probably go off grid if you're connected already. They won't just do it because you said so. Yeah.
So I'm just going to silence the room because it's time for the online event is closing. But I'd really like to thank everyone online for participating tonight. I'll actually just turn that around to me a bit. Sorry if you got dizzy. But I'm very grateful. I'm really apologise for what we did with the screen. We've learnt. We won't do that again. So I do know that you missed out on a bit on the side. Thanks for your great questions. I'd really like to encourage you, especially if you're a member of Renew, to actually send your questions into tom.hawking@renew.org.au. And Duncan, you'll just type that in the chat so that people can see that where to send those questions. And we'll collect the questions that you've got here because they're great questions and see what we can do with them. But really, it's better to just send them directly to Tom, and they'll probably get published also in the Renew magazine because this is something that's really quite relevant to everybody. So without further ado, I'd like to thank Adam for coming tonight and presenting. And I'd like to thank the online audience. It's been really wonderful having you here. And let's keep these conversations going, because wouldn't it be wonderful if we can actually all be more resilient with our energy going forward in the future. So thank you. I'll close off now, and I'm going back to our audience here, which you've all seen. We'll be chatting a little bit more, but we do really appreciate having you all. Thank you very much.